Get started. So my name is Jason Green. I'm a senior program manager for the web client for the finance and operation apps. So that is D365 finance, supply chain, commerce, and then the talent core HR product as well. So all of those products use the things that my team produces. And so in particular, my team works on all the controls, the filtering, personalization, task recorder, so any of those kinds of front-end features that work across all the forms, that's going to be my area of responsibility. And so today in this session, we're going to talk about some user experience updates that have come recently into the product. In particular, I'm going to talk about two big initiatives we've been working on. So one is in the area of personalization, so it's this concept of saved views. So we'll talk about what those are, what they include, how it makes your life easier to create, distribute, and manage all of these personalizations in the system. So we'll cover that a little bit. And then the second piece is going to be the new grid control. And so I'll show both of those. I'm going to spend most of my time in demo and not in slides. So you guys could actually see it live. And so there's a lot of cool new functionality built into the grid, and there's more coming. So I'll give you a preview of what's already there. All right, so we just talked about that. So before we get started, I'm going to do things a little bit backwards in this presentation. It's only 20 minutes. So if you guys have a phone or a web browser and you want to give me feedback live during this session, so things that you like, things that you don't like, things that are confusing, other things we should be working on, you can log into menti.com right now. You can put that code in. This question will come up on your screen, and you can, during the next 20 minutes, you could give me whatever feedback that you want about what I'm talking about, anything else. So I'll leave this up for just a few seconds in case anyone wants to log in and get this ready. All right, let's switch over and go into the product. So is everyone here finance and operations users? Anyone here? Do we have any retail commerce users? Talent? Okay, so a little bit of everyone. So I assume everyone has seen the dashboard before. So I'm going to spend most of my demo today in the sales order form. It's a very complex form that has a lot of usage. And the first thing I'll do is navigate there. And I always like to start my demos showing navigation search. So most people don't realize this. To go to a form like all sales orders, you can type something very quick like AL space S space O. You can search with the first letters of each word. This is the quickest way to navigate in the product. This works with any form in the system. So if you haven't done this before, highly recommend this is the way you navigate. And I'm going to skip past the list and go straight into the details of a sales order. So you guys are probably very familiar with this form. This is the standard sales order form that we ship out of the product. It has all the bells and whistles of everything you can possibly do. So there's tons of fields, there's tons of actions. And so if we look at standard or a typical customer, do they use all of this stuff on the form? No. How much do you think they actually use, a standard customer would use on this form? So we've gone and done some customer visits, and a lot of times on forms like these, people can actually hide up to 80% of what's on this form because they just don't use it. And so all this stuff on the screen is noise to most users. So we really need customers and partners to be personalizing to turn this into something that's more usable for a user. And so if I go into, in case you guys aren't familiar, we have a lot of personalization capabilities in the product already. So in this mode, you can do things like I can hide fields. So I can go through and I can hide things that I don't want to use. I can add other fields. So if there are things that aren't on the screen right now, I can include those on the screen. I can reorder things with the move tool. I can adjust the tab sequence with the skip tool so that as you're doing data entry, you can skip over things that you're not actually entering data in. So there's a lot of built-in capabilities in the product already. And so This little piece up here is probably the new piece that you guys haven't seen before, this thing called standard view. This is where views comes into play, this new save views feature. So before in finance and operations in these products, you could have one set of personalizations per user. Now with this feature, you can actually have multiple named sets of these, and you can switch between them very quickly. So for example, let's take this really complicated form. So I have all these tabs with actions, a bunch of fields in my header. I've got this lines grid that's super wide with a bunch of fields, and I've got line details down here that has even more fields about these lines. So with views, I can take something like this and I can say, hey, I want to switch to my simple sales order and turn this form into something that is very simple, very consumable. And so this is optimized for what I need. So I can always switch back and forth if there's something that's not in this simple one, but most of the time maybe I'm here. Or maybe based on whatever business task or whatever role is using the form, I can customize this with the fields that they need, the actions that they need. So super powerful feature. So this is just, what I've done so far is just being able to create a single view. So I could come in here. If I hide one of these fields, so I've already hidden a bunch of stuff you can see. Sorry, internet's a little slow in here. Let's just refresh. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll just continue. So that is views on a details form. So this also applies to the list. So I can come in here and I can start hiding things that I don't want very quickly. I can add whatever I want. I get this little star up here that says, hey, I'm looking at a different view than what I had defined. And so I could come in here and I could save this to something else. So maybe I'll say this is my view. So when you're looking at these lists, there's actually a little more functionality here than just personalization. So I can actually come in here and say, I want to only see sales orders for the Contoso customers, for example, and filter this list down. So whatever filtered data sets I need to look at regularly, you see I have this star again. I can actually save this off as well. Contoso orders. So now I have a view here. I can quickly switch between these data sets whenever I want, very quick. So we've done a lot of work to make these personalizations switch at runtime so you can quickly switch between them. The real power of this comes in if I want to distribute this out to people. So today, you would go as an administrator, you would push these to individual users. They would still have the ability to change them. With save views, you have a new functionality called publish. So I can take this Contoso orders view. I'll rename it so we can see the difference. I can give it to, let's give it to system user. So this is all users in the system. So this means not only current users, but any future user that comes in the system with this role will automatically see this, this view. I can assign this to whatever legal entities I want. So let's pick something like USSI. And then I'll publish. And so because I'm in USMF instead of USSI, I will not see this view here. But let me switch companies real quick. If I pull this guy down here, you can see my new view is right here. So this gives you a very easy way to set up a set of personalizations, a set of optimized experiences on these forms, distribute it out to the people in your organization that actually need them. And so you can build very targeted experiences for certain roles, for certain legal entities. So this is the first feature that I wanted to show you guys. Let me jump back to USMF real quick. The second one is the grid. So the whole time we've been talking so far, you may not have noticed, but we're actually looking at the new grid control. So it looks like the existing grid. So the first thing that this grid does is it solves a lot of the performance issues that you see with the existing grid. So I can sit here and go through sales orders, and I can start scrolling. And you'll notice within a couple of seconds, I've actually scrolled through 800 records in this form. And I'm pretty sure you can't do that with the existing grid in finance and operations. So the existing one will pull a page of 25 records every time you get close. So it'll keep you about a 75 record window for you. This one is a little bit more aggressive with the paging, but the more important thing is this thing holds on, the client will hold on to all the records that you just scrolled in. So now that I have all those 800 records in, I can click down here and I'm back at the first record. I can click midway through this data set, and I'm halfway through it. I didn't have to go back to the server. It's all local for me to go and browse through that data as soon as I've scrolled it in. So it's a big improvement here. The other nice thing, this is a really small thing, but people really like this because it's so hard to reorder columns right now in finance and operations. This grid also has a nifty little feature that you just hover over here, and I can drag and drop. And so reordering grid columns is way, way simpler with this grid. Small feature, but very popular. Let me go back down to the bottom. Drill back into this record. Let me switch back to my simple sales order just to show a couple more things. So one thing that people have been asking for a long time, which is also a part of this new grid, is totals at the bottom of grids. So you can see my net amount column. All I have to do here is right click and say total this column. And boom, I have a footer at the bottom that shows my total. On the other side, if I have all the data, it'll show me how many rows are in the data set. If I start marking rows, it'll tell me how many I have selected. So we're trying to give you a lot more information in this grid. And so the nice thing about this is this footer being shown, the columns that you've picked that you want to see totals on, those things get saved as personalizations in this view as well. So I only have to do it once, then it's set up from then on, and every time you come to the form, you'll be able to see this information. So that's a super nice feature that people have been asking for a long time. One other thing, let me switch this guy into edit mode. One feature that people have missed from previous versions is the ability to do calculations inside of numeric fields. So in like AX 2012 and previously, you could do some math in a field. That is actually back with this new grid. So I can come in here and do like equals 15 times 4. And so we'll actually do those calculations. Again, this is a very highly sought after feature that has been missing for a while. So I think some people look happy about this. It's only in the new grid right now, so if you have a field that's outside of the grid, it doesn't work. But this is at least a start. And then the last thing that I want to mention before we get going is fast data entry. So how many people enter anyone in here enter a lot of data into the system in F&O? Like sales orders with lots of lines. So whenever you're entering that data, right, you have to enter a row. Whenever you try to go to the next row, you have to wait, right? You have to send this off to the server. It's got to go validate, make sure everything's good. Once it comes back and says you're fine, then you can move to the next row and you can start typing again. So there's a lot of time spent waiting for the server to come back. So there's a new feature that we're working on. I'm going to show you a preview now. So this isn't done, but you can at least get an idea for how it's going to work, that we call fast data entry. And so instead of making you wait for the server to come back and say things were good, we're going to let you actually go ahead and type ahead, and we're going to send off that request asynchronously so that you can continue working and type as long as you want without having to wait for us. And so I'm going to kind of show you that right here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go down this grid and I'm going to update this quantity field. And so what I want you to notice is this column right here. This is a new kind of sync status column when this feature's on. And so I'm basically just going to come here and start updating. And so you'll notice the server hasn't done all this yet, right? That little sync column is saying, hey, that's where the server is catching up. So you don't have to wait for us anymore to type things in. We're actually going to let you go ahead of us. So the question was, what happens if you enter a letter in the quantity field instead of a number, so you get a validation error? well, I'm not going to do it because I don't know that we've done that part yet, but in this build anyway. So what happens is, so we had all these rows that were syncing. Let's say this one had like a letter instead. So what it's going to do is it's going to mark that row as invalid like it would today if you were just waiting. And then the server will, right now it will stop at that one and it won't continue until you fixed it. But that is just the short-term solution. We'll skip over that one eventually and keep validating. So, and there's also an edge case scenario here where sometimes whenever you enter a value in a field and you tab out, the system wants to pop some kind of like confirmation message box or some slider. So that'll be handled the same exact way, where that row will get tagged some way to say, hey, we're waiting for you to do something, but you can still keep typing and you can decide when you want to go back and deal with that validation error, deal with that pop-up. So we're trying to account for those scenarios as well. Let's see how much time we have. So we have 4 minutes left. So that was a really quick dive through those two features. I think I'm just going to stop there and ask for questions just because there's not a lot of time. So. Is there a timeout value for the asynchronous callback to the server? No, not right now. So we're just submitting it and waiting for the server to come back. But you can continue going as long as you want. Right. I hope it's not taking 20 seconds for it to return, though. Because the idea is that as you're typing, the server is staying within a row or two of you, because we're actually processing while you're typing, not that you're getting farther and farther ahead of the system. Is what logged in telemetry? Oh, is there some way you can in telemetry or in DevTools see what the return time is? Not today, not today. You can submit feedback, yeah. I don't know if that's in the plan for GA or not, but anybody else? So the question is, when will saved views in the grid be generally available? So right now these are in preview. So they started out in preview in PU29, which was 10.05. They are going to be moving towards more of the new definition for public preview in the next update or two. GA is still a little bit questionable. My hope is that the April release they'll be GA'd, but I can't guarantee that yet. We're just going to, since people will be able to take public preview features to production, I'm okay with it staying in public preview for a little bit to get more feedback until we actually declare GA. What happens if you have millions of records with the new grid? Are you talking about like the totals capability? Because we're pulling them all client side. So yeah, the question is if you have if you had a million lines here or voucher transactions, something like that with a ton of data. So there's I guess the best answer is we're going to implement something called cache limits, where you can decide for that environment how many records do I want to be able to cache on the client. So if you want to limit it to like 50,000 and then they actually can't do that, they won't be able to do totals if it's a larger data set than that. So what we don't want to happen is you flood the web browser, the client, with so much data that you crash their browser because you run them out of memory. So we're going to put some protection in so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. Any other questions? Yep. Oh. So the question is, once we have all the data on the client, can you filter on display methods? I think is the question. So not yet, but that is still the plan, that if you have all the data set locally, you'll be able to filter and sort on display methods. So there's a feature. Oh, I guess I can show that real quick too. There is a feature that is coming next after fast data entry, or being able to group data. I think Some of you may have heard us talk about this before. This is going to be starting in development in the next couple of weeks. So this one will be coming soon, which basically allows you to say, hey, I want to group by one or more rows and see kind of a hierarchical view of my data. And this picture isn't very clear here, but you can also get subtotals for those headers as well with the totals feature. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this one.